Hey, welcome to Middle Reps. I'm Fish.
And I'm Ben. Today we're going to talk about why you're nice. Or not.
I am.
I'm not talking about you, trust me. So, evolution by natural selection is how we're here. It's how we have most of the traits we have. But we're nice. And if you know what natural selection selects for, it generally, at least on a superficial level, you think it would select for selfishness, right? Because those who get to propagate their genes the most are those who, spread the most, and their genes become the norm, the most ubiquitous. And you'd think the best way to propagate your genes is to be as selfish as you can be. But we aren't sometimes. Sometimes we are. But there's a reason for that. And we're going to get into that today. But first, we will do deep dives on viewer-suggested recommendations. So if you are interested in something, then drop a comment and let us know. We'll do deep dives just like this one and all the previous ones that we've done on viewer-recommended stuff. So let us know. So let's get into why something like altruism would be selected for by natural selection. And there's a few reasons. One of which is probably the most obvious, which is kin selection. Which is to say, you like your relatives. You want to keep your parents alive. Your parents want to keep you alive. Your brothers, your cousins, and so on. But why would we have adapted this trait? Why do we care about our relatives? So, there's something called Hamilton's rule, which it seems like we can't escape mathematics in pretty much every field of study, and evolution by natural selection is no different. So there's an equation, R times B is greater than C, which is Hamilton's rule, where R is equal to the genetic relatedness between an actor and a recipient, B is equal to the reproductive benefit to the recipient, and C is the reproductive cost to the actor. So if the first two together are a greater quantity, quote unquote quantity, these aren't like quantifiable by numbers per se, but if the first two are greater than the third, the cost, then this will be selected for. This is a gene that will propagate. So the value of R, the genetic relatedness between the actor and the recipient, is it represents the probability that two individuals are related or have the same genes. So an identical twin is a 1-to-1 correlation. They have all your genes. They are the same as you. So if somebody were to give birth to identical twins, the way to propagate those genes is you are functionally equivalent to your identical twin. Gotcha. If your identical twin is about to get eaten by a dinosaur and you shove them out of the way and instead you get eaten by a dinosaur, that is the exact same as far as gene propagation as having just let them die.
Right.
Assuming that they would go on to propagate. Mm-hmm. So, and a parent has a relatedness of 0.5 because there's half of your mother's genes and half of your father's genes. So the genes that you have, half of them come from your mother. So the relatedness is 0.5. And the same is true for a sibling. 0.5 relatedness. So the gene propagation equivalent would be if you could save like two siblings. That would be functionally on a probabilistic level functionally equivalent to you saving yourself. And the same for like a half sibling, a correlation or a relatedness of 0.25. Yeah. And a cousin or would be like 0.125. So this is the probability that these people have genes that you have. And we're talking about an altruistic gene here. Mm-hmm. So if all of your siblings have this altruistic gene, or at least a probability of these quantities of having this gene, they would need to, quote unquote, save, or whether that's save from dying or just allow their siblings to propagate in a way that maybe they otherwise wouldn't have, as a functional equivalent to you propagating, or greater than that. So if you have 3 identical twins, if for some whatever situation would occur where them 3 can't copulate to spread their genes, but you can, if you sacrifice yourself for them 3, that is a net benefit for the altruistic gene. Because now there's 3 people that can spread that gene other than just one.
Right.
And the same is true for all these other quantities. Obviously, it's most so for an identical twin. But yeah, so if an organism had a gene mutation, an altruistic gene mutation, then that organism sacrificing itself for an identical twin would be functionally equivalent to the organism saving itself and letting the twin die. It's one and the same as far as gene propagation is concerned. So an altruistic gene would in fact spread. If a parent and a father had several children and these children had this gene of altruism, then because they are all going to help each other, this gene is going to spread. So that's one reason why we would help like very close siblings, family members, parents, brothers, and whatnot. JBS Haldane, who's a biologist, famously said, "I would lay down my life for 2 brothers or 8 cousins," because of this mathematical sort of relatedness, equivalence stuff. Bees are something that very obviously has such a gene. Bees have it to quite a great extent because to save their tribe, as it were, their kin, they literally murder themselves.
Yeah.
To sting something, they will, they just die. They sting something and then they rip out all their internal organs to get it to go away. But here's the thing. If a bee kills itself from like a cat about to absolutely just abolish like 50 bees, but one bee happens to have this altruistic gene and it's saving like 50 others that also have it, like, of course that's like a benefit times 100.
Yeah.
That's obviously going to outweigh the costs of the bee murdering itself to get the gene to spread by quite a bit. That's why it's so obvious in things like bees. I think ants are another one of them, where they kind of do pretty much anything for the queen ant.
You know how strong ants are?
Pretty strong.
You've seen that?
Yeah, they can carry things greater than their body weight by a lot.
I don't know the number off the top of my head, but it's about wild.
Yeah, they can. You see them moving sticks. Like the functional equivalent for us would be like carrying a tree.
Yeah, I was about to say, it's not really on topic, but the bee was the size of a human. What could they bench, right?
Well, they don't have arms.
What could they? Something else.
I don't know.
These are the real questions.
I don't know if bees are known for their strength.
Or not bees. Ants.
Oh.
Did I say bees?
Yeah, you did.
Oh, I meant ants. We're talking about how strong ants are. Anyway, how much could a ant bench?
It could probably bench more with its teeth and its head than it could with its little arms, if I had to guess.
I'd love to see a study. I'm sure it's been done about how much an ant, relative to its body weight, can carry.
I was gonna say almost surely that's known information.
Could they at least drag a car?
Well, if a 200-pound person could drag a 4,000-pound car, that's, I don't know what that ratio is, but it's a lot. But it's not unheard of. There are people that like, I mean, that's a thing. I mean, strongman competitions pull freaking airplanes.
I know all about strongman.
Like they'll pull semi trucks, airplanes. So that's not that crazy. I mean, picking it up would be nuts, but especially with just your mouth.
Yeah.
Bite it.
I don't know. Scientists get on that.
I'm sure they have already. But yeah, so but how do you know who your relatives are?
Usually they're in your house with you.
That's actually a yes. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Good job. All right, moving on. No, but spatial proximity is one of the most obvious ways. There's no gene to know who else has that gene, right?
Yeah.
So there's no, I can't just look at somebody and know if they're related or not without other markers of relatedness, like physical appearance, which is not a good indicator of how related you are, because there's so many people that look more like me than my brother does. No one would guess that we are brothers. Maybe I'm adopted. But spatial proximity is one of them. So your brain basically just, I mean, this is incest. This is all this is about. Like,
Yeah.
If you grow up with somebody from birth that is not your relative, it doesn't matter. You act as if they are. You have this just absolute disgust, avoidance of them in regards to copulating with them.
Yeah.
Even if they're not relatives. Because we just learned to know who we grew up with. So many, and this is true of a lot of species. Species tend to stay near or in close proximity to wherever they were born. And that includes the whole family. So they're going to know, at least on some degree, who their relatives are. And it kind of just applies to cousins and, grandparents, second cousins, because you're going to see them quite a lot. They're all going to stay around the same place in a like ancestor sense, not necessarily in our life today. But there's also familiarity. So like just being in proximity with another organism will tell you who they are related to you. Noticing what they look like is, like I said earlier, sort of can be one marker of identifying their closeness to you. And if you grew up with them, obviously you're going to recognize them. And there's some genetic cues too, like scent. I don't know if this is one for us, but scent is knowing what your siblings smell like.
What do you mean one for us? What are you talking about?
I don't know if this is a marker for us.
Like we don't have it?
Probably not. I don't think.
I guess I don't know. I've never smelled my family.
Yeah, me neither.
So
that's why I'm assuming that we probably. I don't know if I could tell who I'm related to by the way they smell.
But also you probably haven't put it to practice. So I don't know if it'd be worthwhile to write it off. I feel like that could be a thing. I could see that being a thing.
Well, maybe if they never put on.
Well, yeah, it would be a base smell. It'd be like a body odor kind of a thing, I'm sure.
Maybe. That's possible.
I could see that. I don't think that that's too far fetched to think might be true.
It's possible. I'd be surprised.
I don't have any personal experience with that.
I mean, smell is like one of our most, at least compared to other organisms, smell is like so not important to us. So I guess I just assumed that it probably doesn't factor in to the familial recognition picture, but it might. So let's say you grew up with someone let's say you grew up with your brother for 6 years and then were separated and then come back together at 25. The difference in facial bodily features are probably far enough to where there's zero chance you're going to recognize them visually.
Yeah.
Do you think you might, like, if you pass by this guy and he's happens to not be wearing any scent boosting shampoo or cologne or anything, you think you might be like, I might know this guy?
There's no way. What I was getting at was not that I could pick it out, but that you could if you trained it or something. Maybe, you know what I'm getting at? Like you could associate the smell of a person.
Oh, okay. Yeah, if you're just saying you can recognize a smell, then yeah, I agree.
Yeah, but like, I guess I don't know. Maybe I just think maybe there is something to that about the familial smell, but maybe there's not. I don't know. I've never tried it, but no. To answer your question, no. After that amount of time, even if there was something very familiar, I don't think I would pick up on it or assume that it was related.
I don't think that would be, if it does exist, I don't think it would be any more, and I do think it would be quite less significant than even just visual cue.
Yeah.
Which already is not that helpful. The biggest part, the predictor here of if someone's your sibling is just simply proximity when you're growing up.
Yeah.
And being told. But this can be fooled because there are people that are adopted that don't realize it. So, yeah, I mean, you really have no concrete way of knowing who your relatives are. But your brain don't care. If you grew up with them, you don't want to propagate with them, which I think is a good thing.
Yeah.
All in all. So that's kin selection. There's also reciprocity, which everyone knows the feeling when somebody does something for you, you feel that you need to do something for them, or at least you're now indebted in some way to them. And there's a reason for that. It's because those who cooperate with each other, if two organisms happen to have a mutation for reciprocity, those two organisms are going to do quite a bit better than the ones around them because they now effectively have the resources of two individuals working together versus just one on their own. So they're going to propagate their genes. This one requires a few more like prerequisites though, because for reciprocity to be a thing, you have to have repeated interactions with this other organism. For example, if this is just a one-time interaction, if both cooperate, both benefit. If one cheats, then the cheater benefits more than perhaps if they both cooperate. Mm-hmm. And if they both cheat, they both lose. So if this is a one-time thing, then the obvious thing that's going to be selected for is the one that cheats, the one that gets given to but doesn't give back.
Yeah,
doesn't have to pay the costs of reciprocating. So this is classic like prisoner's dilemma. Do you know what that is?
I think I've heard of it.
So, like, if there's two prisoners, well, let's just simplify it even further. I have a button and you have a button. We have to press the buttons at the same time. I have a cooperate or a defect button. Mm-hmm. You have a cooperate or a defect button. If we both cooperate, we both get $300. If we both defect, we both get $10. If I cooperate and you defect, you get $500 and vice versa. But we can't see what each other's move is going to be until we both play.
So you're hedging your bets, kind of assuming that the other person's not going to cooperate, so you can get some amount of money instead of none. Is that what it's getting at?
Well,
Because the one gets the...
if you assume the other person's not going to cooperate, you're saying you're assuming that the other person's going to defect,
Yeah,
which would mean that you have to defect.
in order to get $10.
Right.
Yeah. Elsewise, you might get nothing.
Yeah, and they would get $500.
Yeah.
Right. But you know, so if this is a one-time interaction, the obvious thing to do here is just defect. Even though you both know if you had just cooperated, you could both get $300.
Yeah.
But you're both using the same. If you're both logical creatures, you're both going to defect.
Yeah.
And the one that defects while the other cooperates, let's say you get an altruism gene, a reciprocity gene, I'm going to defect and you're going to cooperate, and I'm going to get that much more sort of fitness benefit, as it were.
Yeah.
And then you're going to go extinct, like, pretty rapidly.
Yeah.
So unless you meet another dude with this reciprocity gene mutation, and it's on a multi-interaction occurrence, the interactions frequently occur where we both cooperate, then the $300 starts to pile up.
Yeah.
And we would also, one thing we'd also have to be able to do is have memory. So if I get helped, I have to know who helped me. I have to recognize other individuals. And two, I have to have a memory of them that they helped me or I helped them for reciprocity to work. So this is a bit more of an advanced sort of altruistic mutation, but this still happens in what we would deem as pretty low level organisms. I'm pretty sure this happens even on the level of bugs. I know it happens in pretty much every mammal, as far as I understand, and like birds and stuff. But birds are also pretty ruthless. Like the things that birds are fricked up. Like so there's birds, I think it's swallows. Baby swallows developed a mutation to, if the swallow is in a nest, this I'm kind of butchering this, so fact check me, but if a swallow is born in a nest, the first swallow to be born of the eggs, the first thing he's going to do is murder all of his relatives, his siblings, not his relatives, not his parents. But if there's other eggs in it, he'll pick them up and chuck them overboard.
Jeez.
Because guess what? Now his genes are going to get propagated because he's the only one that's going to get all the food and all the attention from the parent.
Good Lord.
And when those genes get propagated, more birds die.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's like, why? It just goes to show you, natural selection cares not for, like, what we would deem as morally correct. It's going to select for whatever the freak propagates the most genes. And if murdering your siblings, murdering all your unborn brothers and sisters is a great way to propagate your genes, then that's what's going to get selected for. That's messed up.
That's very messed up.
And there's like another one is a dust mite, I think. A type of dust mite that gives, so there's basically no males, but the dust mite always, when it's pregnant, it gives birth to like 8 or 10 children, and only one of them is a male. And it gives birth. It doesn't give birth. It incubates like 8 to 10 kids, one of them male. Inside the womb, the male impregnates all his sisters. And then they eat their way out of their mother, killing her.
Yeah, that's
And then they are all doomed to the same fate because they just got impregnated by their brother.
yeah, that's a little rough.
But here's the thing. That's like there's like 6 or 10 of them now that have reproduced. So it got selected for. Because it's a great way of reproducing and propagating. Like,
They literally start their life pregnant.
yeah,
That's crazy.
inside their mother and then eat their mother from the inside out. Getting impregnated by their brother. What a way of life. That's like, man, natural selection is messed up, dude. So, yeah. Another thing of reciprocity that has to happen is you have to be able to punish or at least avoid those who do not cooperate as incentive. This is likely where we developed things like guilt and shame and stuff.
Yeah.
Is those of us that are cheaters in the reciprocal game, more often than not, we're gonna feel bad about it, or at least we should, right? And that's because in a society of this reciprocal gene, of course, there's always going to be an outlier who tries to cheat. And here's the thing. If there is no punishment or avoidance of that cheater, they're just going to be allowed to keep getting that $500 over and over and over and over again. They're going to keep defecting while the other cooperates if there's no avoidance or cheating. And what's going to happen is the cheater is, because they're getting fitness benefits out the wazoo, they're going to then propagate and take over the altruistic ones.
Did you ever see that? It's a Ricky Gervais like a movie. I've never actually seen it. I've only seen clips of it. But it's about lying, and it's about he wakes up in a world where everybody believes everybody. Nobody thinks anybody else could possibly lie. That's just not a thing in the world. But he can. So he'll just walk into a bank and be like, you know what? Sorry, I don't have my account number or anything, but I do have an account here with $1 million, and I'm just trying to draw it out. And they're just like, oh, you have an account with $1 million in it? Absolutely. They just give him, and the whole movie is just like that. He just goes up to people who can't fathom somebody lying or somebody cheating, but they just believe him anyway.
Yeah,
even though he's the liar.
Well, that's a perfect example of what it would be like for a cheater to be in a group of people that have reciprocity but don't also punish cheaters or avoid them.
Yeah.
So there needs to be consequences, and there is. We feel guilty, and we are shamed if we are cheaters, because that's what kept us alive. That's the benefits of reciprocity outweighed the benefits of a singular cheater. So, vampire bats are kind of the poster child for reciprocity, which is kind of weird since they're bloodsuckers, but vampire bats they starve pretty quickly if they don't get some blood to suckle on. They don't drink. It's like 3 nights or so they'll die. They starve quick.
Jeez.
And bats that find blood tend to find like a lot more than a bat would need. And what they would do is they just overindulge, and when they come back to the bat nest or cave or whatever, they regurgitate their blood for bats that didn't get anything, and that's allowed. It's allowed them to survive longer, and they do it more for bats that are kin than ones that are not. And they do it sort of. They regurgitate more for those who need it more, and less for those who need it less. So they're pretty far into the evolution of reciprocity. But is that? I mean, is that like, would we say that the bats are being altruistic, or are we just saying that they're, same thing with the bees, really? Are they just, do they even know that they're, like, are they thinking I'm being nice, or are they just following their code?
Well, I don't think a bat or a bee is thinking much of anything.
No, but, like, can we even say that this is reciprocity? I mean, on the outside looking in, it fits the definition.
I mean, I would say with almost anything with definition, if it fits it, then that's what it is. Right. But I mean, whether or not you understand what you're doing, I don't think it matters too much.
So if you're sleepwalking and give a homeless guy $10, you're a better person? You're being altruistic? Because it fits the motions that.
But the bees and the bats aren't sleepwalking. They're just coded to do that. Same thing with us, with our genes.
So you're saying the bats are being. Well, yeah. So okay. So you can say if you're doing the altruistic thing, whether you're thinking about doing it altruistically or not.
Yeah.
You are
an altruistic person if you do things altruistically because you have the mutation that makes you altruistic.
Okay. So you can, because we know these genes mutated and propagated because they are beneficial not for the individual or not even for the group, but obviously not beneficial for the individual in B's case, because natural selection doesn't select that. It doesn't select for the individual's benefit. It doesn't select for the group's benefit. Natural selection selects for the gene. The gene. And if it is an altruistic gene that causes you to rip out all your guts, like a bee, that's about as unbeneficial as it possibly could be, but it causes the gene that does that to propagate. So it's always the gene that's being acted upon. So if I have this gene, then you would say, would you say altruism is just totally independent of motive? Completely independent of motive?
I think altruism determines the motion, the what you do, right?
Yeah.
So it's not, chicken before the egg, right?
Well, you think altruism determines what do you mean by altruism determines what you do?
I think in a sense, people, I haven't thought this through very much, but I think that people are more inclined to do things than other people, right? And if somebody is inclined to do something altruistically, right, then they are going to do things altruistically. So it's not so much like with the bats, it's not that they need to be deciding to do something altruistically. They just naturally or do not naturally do something altruistically. And same thing with humans.
Right. So what I'm asking is, in that case, do you then think altruism is completely independent of motive?
I think in the way that I just defined it, probably.
Okay, so I can
that
give
sounds
the homeless
weird.
person. I can give, like, the homeless person the $10 only, and I never would have given him $10 if it were not the case that I would feel good about it. I'm only giving it to him because I feel good about it. And I would never have given him $10. Wouldn't even cross my mind if me feeling good about it was not on the table. You'd say that's still altruism.
If you gave it to him without feeling good, or with feeling good, what did you just say?
If you give the guy $10 for the explicit reason that you feel good about it, is that altruism? And you never would have given him $10 if you would not have felt good about it. Is that altruism?
I think by definition, I don't think it is, because I think doesn't altruism have to do specifically with not getting anything out of it, with no expectation of getting anything.
I don't actually know what the definition of altruism is.
I'm pretty sure.
Maybe. But here's the thing, even in what you just described as the bats and the bees doing it, you just said that is altruism, and the bats and the bees are certainly doing it for the gene's benefit. In fact, that's the only reason they do it, is because of the gene.
Well, so let's just get this nailed down here. Altruism is concern for the well-being, the life of others independently of personal benefit or reciprocity.
Okay, so the actual definition is the act completely. Well, so the definition does have motive.
Mm-hmm. I suppose,
and the motive has to be something other than yourself.
Interestingly, this is just Wikipedia, but they offer different links: one to altruism biology and one to altruism ethics.
Oh,
so I don't know. That's weird. So maybe that's the distinction potentially. That I'm coming from a biological altruism, and you're maybe talking more about ethics.
Maybe,
because that seems like that's the difference there.
Because I don't think there's any ethical considerations with the bees and bats.
No, because that's
obviously biological altruism.
But the homeless guy giving $10, that could be ethics, easily.
Oh, of course. But here's the thing. You are still doing it for the same reason the bats are, because of a gene. And that gene propagated because of acts like that.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. That's what confuses me about it.
More thought is required.
Where does motive have anything to do with this? Is really what I mean, as opposed to.
And also, does motive? Yes. Where does motive come in and have anything to do with this? But also, is the motive that you're telling yourself you're doing it for actually the reason you're doing it?
Is the motive just the biology working its way into your consciousness?
Is the biology giving you a reason to do this?
See, even that's though that where I was coming from. That's exactly where I was coming from. You're somebody that's going to give a homeless guy $10 for no benefit, not even to feel good. They might feel good about themselves, but not even to feel good. Let's say
not for the reason of feeling good.
Right. They're and they might feel compelled because of their biology, and that's biological altruism.
And their biology is the mechanism that the gene is using to get them to be altruistic is giving them the reason of you'll feel good about it.
Yeah.
Even though at base level, this is a gene that spread because doing that act caused it to spread more often. Interesting. I think there's more thought that is required in something like that, because this can go so many different ways in more than just like giving somebody a homeless guy $10.
Yeah,
this could go in so many like ways that could drag it towards being altruistic versus not. But speaking of this, there is another way that altruistic genes did propagate, which is by way of reputational reciprocity. So if you perform an altruistic act in front of in view of others, right, your social standing with that group will increase. This could include you could get more allies, you could get better better partners for reproduction. Your status will increase, and others will trust you more. All of these things are important for propagating that gene. So that could you giving to others independent of the reciprocity of the person that you're giving to can also be good because of reputation. As long as it's in the view of others, as long as others see that it's happening. And this I feel is very obvious in us. When we do good things, we really, really, really want it to be seen.
Yeah.
By others.
Well, and that kind of I talked about this a long time ago on this podcast about and the super unfortunate thing about this is that I can hardly remember this. But when I was in college and I took an ethics class, there was a dilemma that was posed about. It was essentially trying to gauge the room's feeling towards what is good when doing a good act. Is it the outcome or the motive? Right.
Oh yeah, this is like consequentialism.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Right.
And so that kind of I feel like almost relates back to this with altruism. It's ethics, right? The ethics of altruism, but can it truly be altruistic, right? For the benefit to be something viewed.
Right, yeah.
And
exactly.
I think the answer is no.
Not by the definition that you read a moment ago, which did take motive into account.
Now, is it wrong versus right? That's a different
That's a different question. I think everybody would agree that the act and the consequences that come from it are a good thing. But if it's an altruistic act is a different question. And I think
it's a more specific question.
Yeah, but also does it matter? Should we just be consequentialists about this? If the consequences are good, then who cares if it's altruistic or not? Right? And if we would say no, it doesn't matter, then that just makes us consequentialists.
Well, the thing that the example that I keep thinking in my head is like it's like a celebrity donating a bunch of money to charity and like getting it on blast on the news media. And you're just like, and the question is, are you now expected or supposed to think of them as a generous person? And it's like, well,
can we say an ungenerous person can do a generous act?
The act can be generous. So that's the thing. Is the person generous or the act generous or both?
You could say the person is generous insofar as they're following their genes to do this act of altruism for the reputation, like everyone else.
But is that altruism?
Again, according to that definition earlier, no, I don't think so. Because the motive is for the reputational benefit.
Yeah. I don't have a good answer to that.
But here's the thing. Like, I think this one's so important for us, this reputational reciprocity, because so this one's a little bit more, you need to be a bit higher up on the intelligence chain here for this one to take big effect, because so like organisms of higher social intelligence with language, especially language is huge. This becomes enormous, right? Because now your reputation can spread like crazy because of things like gossip and whatnot, the news, as it were. Yeah. And this is true not just of us, but of other high intelligence, primates as well, like apes and stuff. They have huge reputational systems and like dominance hierarchies and crap. So where was I going with that? I wanted to talk more on the altruism thing, but
about the reputation.
Yeah. I don't know. I tend to think consequentially on this, if I tend to think if they're benefiting those who are less fortunate, like, dude, put your name on blast. I don't care.
Yeah.
Whatever. The benefit here is obviously outweighing, but it's like, this is a game. This is a game that we play. We literally, this is so obvious that none of us are altruistic in the definitional sense.
Right.
It's so obvious that none of us are because we are playing a game. We want to appear as altruistic and we want to hide the fact that we're doing it for reputational gain.
Yeah.
Even though we all do want the reputational gain to come with it. But we want to hide that fact. We want to hide it because that drops the significance of the act.
Right.
Because if we do something altruistic and it's also put on blast that we did it just for the reputation, now it has the opposite effect of dragging us down in the reputational hierarchy. So we literally play this game of trying to hide the reason we're doing a thing, even though that reason is within all of us, is inbuilt to all of us. And I think that's so stupid. We should just, whatever, put your name on blast if you did something nice.
Yeah.
I don't care if you did it because of the people or not. The outcome's the same. People are helped. So I think I tend to think consequentially on this.
I feel very similarly. The only thing that trips me up on this is when we start asking the question, is this person good or is this person altruistic?
Yeah, I don't know.
Because then the question becomes, well, now we gotta look at the motive, right?
Yeah.
But as far if I'm just walking around day-to-day life, I see a newspaper and it says this person donated $1 billion to help cancer kids or something, I don't know. Then I'm gonna be like,
those cancer kids.
Frick, yeah, put your name on a freaking spaceship and put it on the moon. I don't know, like freaking, what are you doing?
Yeah,
I don't care.
Increase your reputation, right?
Yeah,
like whatever. The outcome of helping cancer kids, is undergone anyway. Either way, right? Yeah. But here's the thing. There are people, less people, but there are people that do things like donate to charity anonymously. Mm-hmm. They do get rid of this reputational part. They do what seems to be an actual act of altruism, unless it's for the reason of feeling good about yourself.
Same thing with donating blood. It's another thing a lot of people do regularly.
Blood.
Did you see that one? There was a dude who had, I guess, a very rare blood type, and he donated blood like every week for, I think, like decades.
Oh man!
And he saved, in the long run, like a ton of babies, just like a truckload of babies.
But here's the thing, you know about it.
I know about it, but I wonder, maybe the man's not very altruistic. I don't know. I think somebody was just like, hey, you've been doing this, and he was just like, yeah, and they were just like, click picture, you're cool. That's what I think happened, but you never know. It's the media.
But here's the thing, there's no reason why we would be altruistic without these previous reputational or reciprocity benefits that I mentioned. There's no reason that would be selected for, yet we still do it.
Yeah.
So that requires an explanation as to why. And it's not actually known for sure why we do it. There are some explanations. On the gene level, right? This simply could be an expansion of what the gene was originally selected for. Like, altruistic genes would have been selected for in small groups, like 50 to 150 or so. That's not much. That's about as big as, like, our ancestral heritage would have had as far as group size goes.
Yeah.
And the genes that propagated through them may have simply coded for basic things, like help those what?
So I wanted to shout this dude out. So James Harrison, who with a rare, just like I said, rare blood type, donated blood for just a long time. I don't know how long, but helped save 2.4 million babies.
Oh my gosh.
That's crazy.
Whoa.
For more,
because he had a rare blood type.
Every Friday for more than 60 years.
Every Friday for more than 60 years.
Wow. Yeah. That's crazy.
Dude, that's crazy.
Shout
That's
out.
wild. Yeah, increase that guy. See, I don't care. I don't care if he's doing it for the attention. Give him the attention.
Yeah.
That's clearly worth it. Are you kidding me? Yeah, I don't care if he's altruistic or not. He's helping people. So, the genes for altruism could have been selected for, and they could have coded for simple stuff like help those in need or reward generosity, which would be reciprocity, and cooperate with the group, which would be like the don't be a cheater, developing guilt and stuff. These things, these are simple versions that would propagate in small groups of 50 to 150. And it would be a more complex gene if it were to then say things like, don't help those that aren't in your group. So basically our genes don't know that we're not helping somebody that will help us, in a sense. Or that we are, our genes don't know that we are helping somebody that has nothing to do with us. Our genes just code for help.
Yeah.
Because all that mattered was that, because there was no option to help somebody on the other side of the world when these genes propagated.
Right.
So, yeah, that's basically the best explanation that I could find as to why we are in some senses genuinely altruistic, helping without any reputational or payback benefit. But it's also the case that social norms, so we do have genes to want to cooperate because cheaters get punished, right?
Yeah.
So we do want to cooperate, and social norms of helping others that we grew up with could also be motivating factors.
Right.
Because we want to cooperate, and because the social norms are such that helping others is good, we just will feel guilty if we don't help others, even if we don't get helped back. So that's not a direct gene expression, right? But it is indirect.
I would be interested to see an experiment where this would be about impossible to do unless you like Truman Show it. But you ever seen the Truman Show?
No.
Jim Carrey. You'd like it. Anyway, where you had somebody grow up in a society where any sort of generosity or altruistic acts were neither encouraged or discouraged. Completely neutral. Would it just be like normal, or maybe a lessened, not quite as compelling?
So it would be an experiment to see, like, what would they be like completely absent any social developments.
Yeah. I don't know. My instinct tells me that the kind of genetic markers that lead to altruism still be present, but it maybe wouldn't be as brought to focus.
Right, because not only we obviously have genetics for this stuff, but it is also the case that we have the genetics to, like I just said, we have the genetics to be cooperative, which even further beats into us things like reciprocity and altruism and stuff, following social norms, when those social norms are altruistic, moral norms. Mm-hmm. That's just going to compound on our already genetic tendencies. And I don't know how to separate the two.
Right.
I don't know if I don't think it can be separated, at least at our level. Once you grow up and your brain develops under social norms, I think it's completely inseparable from what your genetic baseline would have otherwise been.
Right.
And I had to throw this in there. Would it not be convenient if just these things that we see as altruistic and morally good are only that way because they helped us survive, and the antithesis is true, the things that we see as morally bad and condemnable, we only see as that way because they hurt as far as gene propagation is concerned. Would it not be convenient if those things just happened to track on the moral objective truths of reality, moral realism? I've seen I don't think it makes sense for objective moral truths to exist, realist moral truths to exist, and also they just happen to align with the way that we evolved. Like it seems plausible to me that we could have we could have evolved in a way that is completely counter, not entirely counter, but just very different as far as moral considerations are concerned than what we are now. If those just simply happened to propagate, if those genes happen to propagate.
Yeah.
And then that would be the new moral objective truth.
Right. We're pretty good at doing that. We define what is objectively correct by whatever was kind of not most convenient for us, but what we have been selected to do.
Right. Yeah. Or do or not do.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I just think it's another thing of we seem to think that we're the center of the universe, and thinking that. And
I don't, and I'm not gonna go too deep into this point, but it is kind of like you'll hear the religious types say something to the effect of, "How could you have morality without God?" You know, and it's what we've just discussed is that, well, to do altruistic acts is kind of baked into us, devoid of any religion.
It's how can you have morality without God? Well, because we just wouldn't be here if we didn't have the morality that we do, because we would not have survived.
Right.
So, yeah. But that is it brings up another problem on the side of our own language. It brings up a problem on the side of moral realism, but I think it also brings up a problem on the side of moral relativism as well, which is to say, like, obviously you and I would say we've made moral progress from like the slave days and before that of just killing people who weren't our kin to take their land and stuff. How can we say what is progress? What do we mean by progress?
Well, progress in a moral sense. I don't know. I guess I would say we look after the well-being of conscious creatures more than we otherwise did. Less dividing lines, fewer dividing lines.
Right, but if that consideration was simply just in the same way that bees don't know that they're being altruistic, how are we to say that we've made progress since keeping slaves when all it ever was like we're the bees? There was no.
Are you getting at that we felt equally as altruistic then as we do now?
Yeah,
and that we could be equally as non-altruistic now as we were then?
Yeah, kind of.
I mean, I think the actions that you take need to have a place. I think that if we as a people still struggle with not giving to the needy, right, and being unaltruistic in that sense, we are still better in a degree sense than somebody who keeps slaves, right? So in a sense of more altruistic, potentially, but really it's just less negative. If you're, that's the way I would look at it.
More altruistic by way of meaning.
I don't know if I would say we have become more altruistic, but I would say we have become less evil.
But what do you mean by evil when it's just a gene mutation?
I think keeping slaves is evil. That's what I'm getting at. That's all I'm getting at there.
Right. I know that, but I'm not talking about the slave part. I'm saying, what do you mean? I'm talking about the evil part. What do you mean by evil? If it's just a gene that coded because we survived off of it.
I guess it would come back to social norms, right? Because I mean, we haven't evolved in the last 150 years.
Not on a genetic
level. So what we're talking about now is the social norms. We're talking about how, as a species, we have decided to conduct ourselves, and the way we've decided to conduct ourselves happens to align with quote unquote less evil or quote unquote more altruistic markers, identifiers.
So when we say that we've made moral progress, you're basically just saying that we are just aligning better with what our genes kept us alive for, which is to say altruism.
Yeah, I would say so.
And there's no okay. And if the antithesis were true, that would be this just as valid.
If we moved away, you mean?
If going and taking slaves were instead what benefited and propagated our genes more, that would have been moral progress. And we would have called it that, and it would have been.
I mean, we would have called it that, absolutely. I don't think if moral realism is anything to be considered, then that's certainly a discussion to be had, whether or not that is correct. But
right.
How we would identify ourselves, sure, probably, almost certainly.
Right. We would, if we were like some opposite creatures, we would say moral things are immoral and immoral things are moral. In the same way that we're doing it now.
Yeah.
Just because that's what seems to that's what propagated our genes in the past.
And that's not to say that we can't be mistaken about things now.
Oh yeah.
Because we are, you know, but if moral realism is to be anything, and you can be mistaken about a certain kind of thing, but obviously some would say that there is nothing to be mistaken about. It's only society, the society you live in, and the social norms that you grew up with.
Yeah, how we feel about it.
Yeah,
basically. Yeah, so this goes really deep. There's I was extremely surface level with this. There is full on, people have full on doctorates and PhDs on just one aspect of some of this stuff, like kin selection. So this was extremely surface level, and it goes very in depth, but obviously we don't have time for that much. But yeah, that's a sort of brief kind of overview on why we call the things that we call moral and why we're nice people. But yeah, do we have a game?
It's a very simple game. It's really not even a game. What I did here is I got a list of actions, and as a thought experiment, I want you to rate how likely you would be to do these quote-unquote altruistic acts.
Okay.
Just to see how nice of a guy you really are. So I really don't have a ton of structure to this. Basically what I'm just going to give you a action, and then kind of two ends of an extreme, and 1 through 10, I want you to rate how likely you would be to do this. If you could rate it also to what degree you would do it also. So we'll just start here. So you accidentally get 2 coffees at a cafe. One end of the spectrum, you keep both for yourself, or you return one of them.
I'm keeping both.
Okay, so you're just straight up not. Maybe somebody else would. You never know.
If I give it back, guess where it's going?
In the trash.
Yeah.
In the trash. Yeah.
Obviously.
All right.
There's no benefit to that.
I mean, one could say, well, this isn't on here, but the cashier at the grocery store gives you an extra $5 and change that you weren't expecting.
Here's the difference. That is a direct. Okay, if they give me 2 coffees, it's a sunk cost. The cost is paid.
Yeah.
If they give me an extra $5, I give it back. No harm done.
Mm-hmm.
That's not this. That's not a.
I was asking an alternate question. It's a different
Yeah.
question. Even.
Okay. Yeah. I would obviously give the $5
I wouldn't
back.
ask the same question again because we already asked the first one.
Yeah. I would obviously give this $5 back.
Okay. But you're not giving the coffee back.
No.
And you're a bad person for that. Okay. A neighbor's dog escapes. You could chase it down. Do you do nothing or do you run after it and return it to safety?
No, that dog's gone, dude. What the heck? I'm not running after somebody else's dog.
All right. Okay.
They can run after it themselves.
That's awesome. A musician is...
In fact, I think that has happened before.
you were just like, frick that dog, dude.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a delivery driver. I see dogs all the time, and sometimes they get out and run away. I'm just, yeah.
All right.
You signed up for this.
A musician is performing and looks like they could really use tips. Do you do nothing? Or do you give a generous tip and compliment their performance? Now, a generous tip in my mind, I'm thinking like $10. That's a generous tip, I would say.
And I don't have an in-between option.
You can do degrees. Like I said, it's
Okay.
it's 1 to 10. You've just been saying no this whole time, so I've just been putting zeros. But
Well, I mean, what the heck
guess-
is a gradation of chasing a dog? I'm not going to half chase it.
I don't know.
I'm not going to give half the coffee back.
You could instead, I don't know, like maybe go up to the person, like knock on their door and be like, "Hey, your dog got out." That'd be a gradation.
The thought experiment, you didn't specify if they saw it or not. In the thought experiment, I assumed that they were there to see their dog running away.
I guess I hadn't considered that. I guess that would really change things. But I guess in my mind, they didn't see it.
Well, if that's the case, then I would probably assume that it's just a free balling dog anyway. So I don't know if I still wouldn't chase after it.
Okay.
But so unchanged on that one. But the tip person,
Yeah.
do I get to assess how I actually think their performance is? I understand
it's pretty
it
decent.
looks like they could use tips, so I'm assuming that their tip jar is just empty.
They're pretty good. It's
It's
all right.
fine.
Yeah. It's not. You're not blown away by any means, but it's also not like it looks like they're not even trying or something.
Well, I would probably, assuming I just have cash on me, which is also usually not the case, but if I had 10 ones on me, I would probably give according to how I feel that they're doing, which if they're doing fine, I would probably just give like $5.
Okay. This one is. I'm interested to hear your answer on this one. So a friend texts you asking for emotional support after a breakup, but you're tired. Do you ignore, or do you call and talk for an hour?
Depends on how hot the friend is.
It's a male friend.
Oh, shoot. Okay, unchanged. Depends on how hot the friend is. No, shoot. Emotional support for an hour, but I'm tired.
Right after work.
After work? Well, this is like obvious. This is not effort to me. So, yeah, I don't care if I'm about to go to bed. I don't care if it's right after this. It's not effort. So, yeah, I would obviously do that.
So all the way on that one. Okay. You have $50 and a local charity needs donations. Keep it or give it.
I mean, it depends on what the charity is for.
Cancer kids.
$50?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think this is specific enough. I would need a lot of information because there's so many charities that 80% of that donation would go to the charity owner. and 20% of it would go to the actual cause. And I would need.
I mean, I didn't.
If I'm giving all 50, if this is like one of Peter Singer's like verified charities, and that like whatever that website is, what was it? I don't remember what it was, but Peter Singer literally has like a charity website.
Yeah, it's pretty
where
cool.
you can see directly how much your money is impacting in a literal.
Yeah, when I put these in here, there's no like, oh, there's hidden motives behind this or anything. This is simply face value.
Okay. So if this is as effective as me just giving cancer kids $50
Just straight in their pockets, yeah.
in a
Their
sense,
little pockets.
and I know that they're going to use it for their cancer research purposes or whatever, then I probably would, I think.
All right.
Which that's an unrealistic scenario, but yeah.
Sure. You see someone struggling to push their car up a hill. Do you help them or ignore it?
Go back to that last one. Maybe I wouldn't, because I can do that right now.
Yeah.
I literally could.
Maybe
Just on the website. I literally named the website. I actually didn't, but I can't remember the name, but it's Peter Singer's website. And I could just do that now, and I'm not doing it right now. So I guess I wouldn't.
Okay. You wouldn't. All right.
Well, yeah, no one is.
Yeah, I don't either.
Apparently, a lot of people aren't.
I often think I should donate more than zero, but it's an interesting thing. I used to do a little tithing. If I can get all that money back and give it to cancer kids, I would.
I was gonna say, yeah, you were wasting money on a church kid who probably didn't need it or something like that. For a while.
God, yeah. He's I used to sponsor a kid in Haiti.
Well, maybe he did then. I don't know his circumstance.
Oh, needing it?
Yeah.
I remember this one time they sent me a letter, not the kid, but the the organization, and they were just like, "Hey, it's Christmas. You want to give them something for Christmas?" And I was like, "Yeah." And they were like, "What do you want to give them?" There was like a checkbox, and I was like, and one of the options was a goat. So I bought him a goat.
Dude, that's sick.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But stranger's car, push it up the hill or nah?
Would I just push a stranger's car up a hill?
If they were struggling to push it up the hill and you were going to help them.
Oh, yeah, probably.
Yeah.
I think so. That doesn't seem like that much.
All right. In a team project, one member isn't contributing. Do you do nothing? I guess. This one's interesting because I pulled this from sources. These are not all from my brain. This one's kind of weird because there are other implications to this. So it just says, in a team project, one member isn't contributing, do nothing, or do the entire project so the team succeeds. So I guess this is more kind of trying to get on, do you just take the sacrifice, so to speak, even though other people aren't pulling their weight, but also this has your success built into it?
So the question was, you're a team doing a project and one person on the team is not pulling their weight.
Yeah.
So do you alone do all of it?
I'm assuming this is like a two-person project.
Okay, so when it says team, it barely means the team. Okay.
Yeah.
It just means two individuals. Do I get them to? So basically, it's just asking, what would I do here?
Yeah.
Well, if they're not helping or don't care, then I don't think me. Assuming I'm not like their boss or something in a job situation, if we're effectively equals, I'm just going to do it myself. And
Right.
I'm probably going to omit them from. They clearly don't care about what we're doing. So they're in my eyes not part of this quote unquote team anymore.
Right. That one's kind of obvious to me. Well, because the main thing with that one is, in that situation, like I said, your success is also wrapped up into this. If you do nothing, the task doesn't get done.
Yeah.
So if one person doesn't pull their weight, you let the team allowing somebody to not contribute and you also not contributing means nothing gets done. So,
Right.
Which is generally unacceptable. You see a stranger fall and injure themselves in public. Do nothing or stay and wait until help arrives.
I'm going to ask if they're okay. And depending on their response, unless their response is that of this is bad and I need like ambulance help, then I'm gone, bro.
I'll give you half credit on that. This happened recently to me, actually. Did I tell you about that? The dude, one of the people that come into, one of the contractors that come into our work was outside and he just had a stroke.
Yeah.
And I had to call the police and wait for somebody to get there.
This, I mean, honestly, this has probably happened to most people.
Yeah.
Where they're just in proximity of someone that might need help in some way or tripped or whatever. And it's almost trivial to just ask if they're all right. Mm-hmm. And I would say most people do. But yeah, so me and probably everybody else would do that much, but
yeah,
unless it's a situation into which they need an ambulance or whoever help is to arrive, then I'm not going to just stay there.
Well, here's something you probably won't do. So a stranger needs a kidney transplant, you are a match. Do it or don't.
Is this a life or death situation?
For them, yes, absolutely. They need it.
And there's no other person?
Unclear.
Okay. Well, if this was a real situation, I would make it clear. And if this is literally I give them a kidney or they die, then obviously I'm going to do that.
Okay. All right. That surprised me a little bit with you. I don't know. With the stranger aspect, I thought that would be a little bit more of a halting.
I mean, it is more than if I knew them, but that doesn't move the needle even an iota towards just letting them die.
I agree. I thought you'd have more pause there. I don't know.
Losing a kidney doesn't. I mean, that's not going to change my future life that much.
No, you just can't give a kidney to somebody else.
Yeah, I'll be out of luck the next time that happens.
Yeah, you won't be able to give nothing.
Yeah, that seems trivial. A trivially easy answer.
Here's another trivially easy one, at least in my mind. You find a wallet on the street with $100 in it. Keep it or track down the owner and give it back.
So I'm assuming it also has an ID in it.
Yeah, I would.
Yeah, I'm tracking down the owner and giving it back. In fact, that has happened. That has happened before. It not in that exact same situation, but there has been situations where I have seen a person drop something of value and I have given it back to them.
So interestingly, you seem to have become, at least with the questions, you answered more altruistically as the questions went on. I think it's because the stakes went up.
They became more obvious and obvious answers.
Yeah. Well, you got a 63 out of 100. That's pretty good.
Where 100 is like you're basically God?
Yeah.
As far as doing good is concerned?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm just basically average. Okay, cool, great. I'm average altruism.
There you go.
Okay, well, like I said, we will do viewer suggested deep dives into topics of your choosing. So feel free to choose, drop a comment, and we will talk to you in a couple weeks.